Hey everyone, this is Josh Hayward and welcome to day 21 of 31 days of PumKYn. We've reached the 2/3 mark and it has been an amazing adventure. I know I say that on pretty much every video, but it really has. We've seen some crazy brews, some really good brews, some not so good brews, some very creative brews. It's been a lot of fun. We got another great one for you tonight. This is a special release from Avery Brewing Company out of Boulder, Colorado. This is their PumKYn, and this is their annual barrel series. I actually have two of these different kinds of beers. One that's kind of a rum barrel aged, and this one as a bourbon barrel aged. The name is PumKYN. With the KY, they switched the letters there, made it KY instead of PumKI, to kind of appeal to Kentucky bourbon. So this beer is pretty stout. As you can see, just from the bottle, it looks like something that you pull out of a cellar, something that you would age for a while. This actually says was bottled on November 7th of 2015. So this bad boy's been aging for almost 2 years now. This is 15.0% ABV, and yeah, it's pretty stout. It says served between 45 and 55 degrees. It's probably a little cooler than that right now. I've let it sit for a little bit, but I'm gonna do a little review now, and then I may update it once I let this thing warm up a little bit. So really looking forward to this beer. Avery Brewing is a great brewery over in Boulder. Again, another brewery that's committed to using very fresh ingredients. They pride themselves on using that Rocky Mountain water as well. Yeah, really looking forward to this beer. When I first saw it, when I was looking for these PumKYn beers, I didn't want to get it because it was like $11 a bottle. But as I was struggling to find some extra PumKYn beers, I decided, hey, might as well. Let's splurge for both of them, see what they're like. They look really nice and really special as far as a nice release goes. So here's to hoping the $11.50 per bottle pays off. But yeah, let's see what we've got. Oh, wow. Let's see, yeah. Very beautiful beer here. I can honestly say I don't think we've had a pumpkin ale with this type of color yet. We've had some darker amber, some copperish type brews, but this is almost near brown. Just a really pretty brew here. If you remember, the Warlock was straight black. It was stout. I called it black as night. But this is a dark copper color. Very dark. Dark reddish amber down towards the bottom. Little lighter, kind of going a little more golden towards the top. But yeah, it just reminds me of a fall day, like when the leaves start to turn, kind of turn that dark red, dark gold, turning towards brown. That's kind of what it reminds me of. Reminds me of kind of being really woodsy, like with the leaves changing colors and whatnot. But very pretty beer, different looking beer than anything we've seen. It's got a haze in it, which definitely tells me that they've used some pumpkin in it, which is great. Love it when the breweries actually put pumpkin in it. Actually put pumpkin in their pumpkin beer. What a novel idea, right? But yeah, pretty brew here. Little swirl on it. Kind of a let's see what we've got. We got a kind of a tan head there, actually, and I had to swirl that a good bit to get that to foam up. But now that it's there, it looks like it's going to linger for a bit. So very pretty brew. Just looks like a rich brew just by looking at it. Looks like with these darker colors, going to have maybe some different kinds of malty flavors in it, and of course some great rich flavors from that aging. Let's see, porter brewed with pumpkin and spices, aged in bourbon barrels. So yeah, they're actually labeling this as a porter beer. It is a very light porter beer, if you would call it that, but very pretty beer nonetheless. I'd kind of dark copper to light brown. Beautiful beer here. Yeah, I can't wait to try this one. Let's see what we've got on the nose. I can see why they go with porter beer here. They've definitely used some darker malts in it, and those are coming through on the nose. This smells amazing, and it's got some unique aromas that I don't think we've had in some of these other pumpkin brews. But as far as the malts go, I'm getting some nice caramel in here. I, I, I would even say I'm getting some faint chocolate notes. Maybe even some molasses type notes as well, which can come in with some of these darker brews. But yeah, not lots of nice maltiness there. Definitely some pumpkin spices, some fall autumn spices, maybe some nutmeg. And then of course, getting some rich aromas from some bourbon, that bourbon barrel aging. I would even say maybe some woody type notes too, maybe from some of those barrels. But very nice beer on the nose, very appealing. I could smell that all day. It's just richness, nice sweetness, but balanced out with some of the alcohol type sharp aromas. Oh wow, this is just from the smell. This is going to be a very heavy beer as far as the alcohol goes, and of course 15%, no doubt about it. So you know what it reminds me of? Just kind of thinking about it. Occasionally, some of the Trappist beers that I enjoy quite a bit. Some of those darker Belgians, I believe some of the quads will tend to have some of those aromas, and then that heavy alcohol, heavy alcohol in there as well. Yeah. Aside from the prominent bourbon notes coming through, that's what this kind of reminds me of. It's a really nice, rich Trappist beer as far as the nose goes. So let's see what we got. Cheers. Wow. I'm going to pace myself on this one. There is so much flavor in this. I mean, it is, oh wow. There's a ton of flavor in this. The first thing that I get is a very strong alcohol taste, really heavy on the booziness from that bourbon barrel. Next thing I'm getting is caramel notes, dark chocolate. I want to say it's almost reminiscent of dark fruit in a way. You get some of that in some of the Scottish ales and some of those Trappist beers as well, those quads. Dark fruit, sweetness reminding me of like raisin and fig and those types of things. That's not in here, but some of those malty, some of the malt actually gives those tastes and flavors. Very rich. I'm taking very small sips, by the way. I'm not getting a ton of pumpkin in this, maybe just a little bit. Definitely getting some nutmeg in there, maybe some other type of fall spices. But then as the sip develops, you're kind of hit with that bourbon. Then there's and that maltiness, the rich malty notes, dark fruit, molasses, caramel. Lots of sweetness in this beer, by the way. But as you're hit with that, once you swallow, the bourbon hits you again, and then once it goes away, and as an aside, whenever you taste beer, part of the tasting process is after you swallow and you breathe out those the air coming out of your throat up through your nasal passageways. They register additional flavors, and that's what I'm getting after I've swallowed this. It's almost a woodsy, reminiscent, kind of like oaky type flavor aroma that comes through, comes out. Basically, I taste it again as I breathe out after I've swallowed this beer. Very interesting. I'm tasting it as I smell, as I drink, as I swallow, and then afterwards as I take a breath. It's kind of flavors and aromas all through it. Very interesting. It's a heavy beer, heavy drinking. Yeah, you might need to split a beer like this with someone else, just to really enjoy it. I poured probably this much, and that's too much. I think you would either need to enjoy this with a friend or two, or split it up in a few sittings if possible. Um, but very, very rich, complex beer. It's very, very hard to gauge a beer like this against everything else we've done in 31 Days of Pumpkin. This beer kind of stands on its own, just a different type of, just a completely different vision altogether on what they wanted to do. And not taking anything away from it. It's a phenomenal beer, just very, very rich. Like you can't even compare this with the Ichabod that we started with on day one. It just, they're not even on the same plane. Very, very good beer, very, very rich beer. If you're not into lots of flavors and lots of things going on a beer, you might not like this one. But if you can appreciate some care, all the different kinds of flavors that are in this beer, the time that they took on it, the fact that they bottled this 2 years ago and it's taken 2 years to age, I really, really appreciate the beer from that fact. I tell you, it's almost like drinking a Belgian quad. it's been aged in some bourbon barrels, but very, very rich beer. Lots and lots of flavors. Like I was saying, heavy. It's got a heavy mouthfeel too, for sure. It may not look it, because as I've drank some of it down, it's a deep, dark amber. As I've drank some of it down, it looks like a lighter beer. It's just not it's not dark, and that kind of deceives you. You look at it, you're like, okay, but as you take a sip, it's heavy. It's a heavy beer in the mouth, heavy as far as the alcohol goes. Very, very rich on the flavor. Really appreciate this beer though. It's good. This isn't a beer that you enjoy several of by any means. It's not something that you go, just tip one back at a Halloween or Thanksgiving party. This is a beer you enjoy sip by sip over time, savor all the flavors, savor all the aromas, and really appreciate what the brewers at Avery did on this one. I can't stress that enough. You kind of have to set it aside from everything else we've seen in 31 Days of Pumpkin. Definitely well worth the $11.50, no doubt. Just very, very rich. I think, I think enjoy this one with a friend, kind of bounce it off of each other, ask them what they tasted, what they thought of the different flavors that they got. It would be very, very fun and enjoyable in that respect. But very, very good brew from Avery. A great way to kind of kick off the 2/3 mark on 31 Days of Pumpkin. I really enjoy this one, and I'm going to have to just sip on it throughout the evening and just kind of enjoy it. So thank you guys so much for following along. This has been so much fun. This is why I've done it, to get into these pumpkin beers and kind of break the opinion out there that it's just kind of a basic fad or a basic trend. There's some great beers out there that are pumpkin based, and this is a good one. This one is a work of art for sure. So thank you guys again so much for following along. You guys have a great night. Enjoy your weekend. Cheers.